You know what's funny? If you had asked men 50 years ago what they wanted to do by age 30, most of them would have said, get married, buy a house, and start a family. But fast forward to today, and if you ask some men in their 30s about their future plans, they might reply, invest in Bitcoin, hit the gym, maybe learn a new language, but marriage? Nah, not right now. What's changed? Why are many men hitting the pause button on tying the knot or skipping the idea altogether? There's no single answer, but if you've been pondering why some men are pulling away from the altar, buckle up for a deep dive into the world of shifting priorities, changing dynamics, and let's be honest, a bit of confusion. Before diving into the reasons behind the shift, let's clear one thing up. Men aren't running away from marriage like it's a haunted house. They're just rethinking it. Marriage used to be the ultimate goal, a sign of adulthood, stability, and a gateway to family life. It was the ultimate happily ever after for both men and women. But these days, the script has flipped. Men are no longer viewing marriage as the inevitable next step. Instead, they're asking questions like, is it worth it? What's in it for me? It might sound cynical, but it's an honest reflection of today's complex social, economic, and emotional landscape. 1. Marriage in a changing society. One big reason men are turning away from the institution of marriage is that society has changed dramatically. For one, traditional gender roles are evolving faster than you can say equality. Back in the day, the man was seen as the provider and the woman was the caretaker. Everyone knew their role, and marriage fit neatly into that box. But now, those roles have expanded, merged, and morphed into something new altogether. Women are more independent than ever, both financially and socially. They're career-oriented, goal-driven, and no longer rely on men to be their knights in shining armor. This change has created a shift in expectations for both men and women. The result? Many men are a little unsure of their place in this new relationship dynamic. They still feel the pressure to provide and be successful, but at the same time, they're expected to be emotionally available, help with household chores, and be the perfect partner. No wonder some guys are thinking, isn't it easier to just stay single? 2. The fear of divorce. Why risk it? Marriage might come with a promise of till death do us part, but in reality, many men feel it's more like till differences, arguments, and irreconcilable differences do us part. The statistics don't exactly paint a rosy picture either. In some parts of the world, nearly half of all marriages end in divorce. That's like flipping a coin to see if your marriage will last or go up in flames. For men, divorce can be particularly brutal, not just emotionally but financially too. They've heard stories of friends, uncles, and coworkers losing their homes, savings, and even custody of their children. That's enough to make anyone a bit hesitant about stepping into the legal binding of marriage. It's not that men are afraid of commitment. They're afraid of what happens when commitment falls apart. In a culture where divorce is common, marriage seems less like a romantic vow and more like a gamble. And when you're aware of the stakes, you can't blame men for being cautious, can you? 3. Economic insecurity. Show me the money or not. If you think back to previous generations, marriage and financial stability went hand in hand. It was almost like a rite of passage. Once you were financially secure, you got married and settled down. But the economic landscape has shifted dramatically. Today, financial insecurity is a major reason why men are putting off marriage. Many feel that they simply aren't ready yet. They're battling student loans, trying to climb the career ladder, and struggling to keep up with rising housing costs. This is particularly challenging in an age where the pressure to live up to certain standards is ever present. Men who feel they aren't financially stable enough are more likely to delay or avoid marriage. They may want to build a stronger foundation first, but in the meantime, relationships are being deprioritized. After all, it's hard to think about weddings when you're worried about paying rent. 4. The why bother mentality. Alternatives are everywhere. Another factor is the simple fact that marriage is no longer seen as a necessity. Back then, it was the only socially acceptable way to have a long-term, committed relationship. But today, alternatives abound. Cohabitation, casual dating, open relationships, you name it, it's an option. Men don't feel the pressure to marry, just to have companionship or intimacy. They can have meaningful relationships without a marriage certificate. For some, the idea of signing legal documents just to validate their love seems outdated. If we're happy together, why complicate it is a common sentiment. 5. Emotional baggage, fear of failure. Another factor that's keeping men on the sidelines is emotional baggage. Whether they've experienced failed relationships or witnessed the divorces of parents or friends, the fear of emotional failure is real. No one wants to feel like they've failed, and when marriage is positioned as a do-or-die milestone, the stakes feel impossibly high. The societal pressure on men to succeed in marriage can be overwhelming. If a relationship doesn't work out, men are often blamed for not manning up or making it work. With expectations like that, it's no surprise that some men would rather not even try. 6. The influence of digital culture. Swipe left on marriage. Let's not forget the role of digital culture. Dating apps, social media, and the internet have transformed how people meet, interact, and date. With the ability to swipe through hundreds of profiles or engage in multiple conversations simultaneously, the allure of casual dating has grown stronger. For some men, the idea of settling down with one person feels less appealing when there are seemingly endless options. It's not about being non-committal, it's about feeling overwhelmed by choice. This phenomenon, known as the paradox of choice, makes it harder to commit because men worry they might be missing out on something or someone better. 7. The impact of social movements. The rise of MGTOW. Another modern factor is the emergence of social movements like Men Going Their Own Way, MGTOW, which advocate for men to prioritize their own needs over relationships with women. While this doesn't represent the views of all men, it reflects a growing discontent and skepticism about modern relationships. MTO proponents argue that the risks of modern relationships outweigh the benefits and that men should focus on self-development, career, and personal growth. Whether or not you agree with the movement, it's clear that its message resonates with a segment of men who feel disillusioned by the prospect of traditional marriage. Now, should men give up on marriage? Despite all the reasons for hesitation, it's important to note that not every man is shunning marriage. For many, it's still a meaningful milestone they hope to achieve someday. But for those who are opting out, it's not necessarily out of bitterness or fear. It's about wanting to make the best decision for themselves in a world that's constantly changing. A piece of advice: redefine what marriage means to you. If you're a man watching or listening to this and feeling uncertain about marriage, here's a thought. Don't let societal expectations define what marriage should be. The beauty of today's world is that you get to decide what a successful relationship looks like for you. Marriage can be an incredible journey if it's entered with the right mindset and for the right reasons. If you're unsure, it's okay to take your time. Focus on building a life that you're proud of, and if marriage fits into that, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. At the end of the day, the question isn't should you marry, it's what kind of life do you want to create, and who do you want to share it with? Make that decision for yourself, and the rest will follow. Because whether you say I do or I don't, the most important commitment is the one you make to living authentically. There you have it. Hope this helped you in redefining your thoughts about marriage. If so, share it and like, for it helps YouTube to recommend it to more people like you. Watch the next video coming up. See you in a bit.